Hi, guys. Welcome to another chapter of Comic Talk. This is Comic Talk number 58. Believe it or not, we've been at this for over a year now, and we've hit number 58. And as you know, we just all are beginning to come out of COVID, so things are changing in our market. And I thought it was a good thing to talk about because I think that if you look back in May of this last year, you saw unbelievable prices in comic books. I sold one comic that I thought was incredibly valuable, but not to the point of what I actually achieved on it. So I think that we now have to really take a hard look to start to understand what's happening in our market, and is there a danger that our market will fail because of FOMO. And I wanna bring that up because I want people to understand FOMO is not a collector's approach. FOMO is a speculator approach, an investor approach. The collector collects for the love of the collection. There are people that collect things that are absolutely worthless. Everything from Pez dispensers that have some value, but are not generally collected as largely as comic books or even baseball cards. So there's collections of everything. There are collections of things that aren't even produced. Some people collect stones, rocks. I mean, depending on what you want to collect it, and it has more to do with what you like, and largely some play on nostalgia. The the people that are in this market today that we call speculators and investors largely came, I believe, are about 50% collectors, and the rest of them are people that are in this market because they think they can make some money. I mean, think about this. Who in their right mind goes out there and buys a brand new book for 20, 30 times cover price? What is in their mind? Is it that they want it for their collection, or is it they think it's going to go up, they're going to sell it, and they're going to make some money? Now, I've said this before. Every single collector out there has always felt pride in the fact that their comics, their products, are actually valuable. There's nothing wrong with that. I personally have every single price guide since Overstreet Price Guide number 6. And I think the next video I'm going to do is I'm going to pull them all out and I'm going to go through them. But another thing I want to do is I'm going to start showing the trend of where these comics have been and how they've evolved over time. Because I think you'll find that this medium is a great investment. Okay, so one of the questions you might have is, how do I invest then, right? What's the difference between speculation and investment? As I mentioned, investment is something that you do when you can buy something that you're going to hold for some time. I mean, if you've heard of day trading in stocks, it's the same thing. You can make a long-term investment, or you can make day trading investments. But day trading is really based on speculation. Speculation in day trading means that you see a dip, you buy in, and you sell when you think it's reached a number that is likely not to exceed. So you're trying to catch the gap, and you're trying to do it constantly in day trading. And in the same way, people that are speculating are almost are like day trading in comics. They're buying them today, they're paying $100 for them, they're going the next day, putting them on eBay for $300, taking that money, and then doing the same thing over and over again. Some of these books have been bought in the hundreds. I mean, there's a legend or a story out there that there seems to be someone that has a box of Hulk 181s, and they are releasing them into the market slowly, because if they ever released them all at once, the price would just drop, even though Hulk 181 has thousands of CGC 9.8s and CGC comics in general that are 181s. So what would I do, right? Or what do I do? I'll tell you how I do it. I buy Golden Age, I buy Atomic Age, and I buy Keys in the Silver Age. And I try to really keep it down to keys. Like I may have mentioned before, I'm going to keep my collection down to 100, maybe 200 books. Every single one of those will be an investment. Every single one of those will be sold one day. And that's the other thing you got to remember. Whether you're speculating or you're doing this as an investment, you will sell your comics. And selling your comics is not a sin. You can be buried with them. That's only going to increase somebody else's collection's price because your copy is going to disappear. Or you can sell them. So at some point, get ready to sell them, or at least give them to your kids, or give them to somebody you love or care about. But at the end of the day, you're not going to take them with you. There is no LCS in the sky, or wherever it is that we go. So bottom line is, I think that if you're looking to invest, I would really stick in today's market to buying brand new, and then hoping that one of those brand news will hit, and then you'll have an investment there. But buying them for cover price. And then the other thing you can do is you can start looking at Golden Age. And if you're going to look at Golden Age, I've been saying this for the last year and a half. Look at Fawcett. The reason I say Fawcett, yeah, I may have mentioned they printed a lot of comics, but still, Fawcett comics are really undervalued. If you look at what's coming in June, it'll be the biography of Elvis Presley. It's going to have Tom Hanks, so you know it's got money behind it, and you know it's likely to become a big hit. I think he plays the Colonel, which was like Elvis's manager. So why is Elvis important for Fawcett? Well, because Elvis was a huge fan of Captain Marvel Jr. And he actually modeled himself after Captain Marvel Jr. And if you go back and look in my videos, there's one on Fawcett Comics or Captain Marvel, and I got into the entire story there of how he read it when he was a kid, and then grew up, created the cape, the whole outfit look of Captain Marvel Jr. And that's definitely coming out in the movie because it's in every clip I've seen. The other thing that I would do if I were an investor is I would look, or wanting to invest, I would look at original art. Remember, there's only one of it. Just one. There are not 1,000, there's not 100. Yours is the only one. Whatever condition it's in, that's the only one that exists. So you have a really good advantage. If you look towards, actually here, these are Steranko's, or not Steranko's, Starlins. These are Starlins, and these Starlins have appreciated immensely. These over here are Greg Land. They haven't appreciated as much, but they're still great. And one last thing that I think is important. If you want to invest in comics and not collect, do it in the way that investors deal with investments. Don't get into collecting anything but keys, and don't think about starting runs. But if you want to collect comics and you like comic books, one of the things that I do suggest is that you go after short runs. Short runs are really cool. Short runs are easy to achieve. And one short run that I can never recommend enough, which is one of my favorite, is the Silver Surfer. Now this is a 4.0. I've had this comic maybe 10 times in my lifetime, and this is probably the lowest grade I've ever had. So one lesson is hold on to them. Hold on to them because they will not go down. What you saw in the graph that I displayed earlier is that comic books have really never retreated. What only retreated was 1990s when we had the big crash. But even then, Spider-Man #1, all the old comics never really took a hit. So you can expect safety in Golden Age, you can expect safety in Atomic Age, and you can expect a certain amount of safety in Silver Age. But you can expect a lot of safety in keys from those. So that's my recommendation. And again, FOMO's great, guys. I suffer from it. I get on eBay, I start seeing something, I see a movie coming out, I jump on it. I mean, I do it all. But again, I do it based on trying to buy a comic that I know I can flip, so that I can go and buy my golden age. And that's another way of doing it. Doesn't mean you don't speculate. It means that speculation is really to get you to an end. And that end is long term investment in safety. Again, guys, thank you. And if you love comics, you're going to love your collection. So many of you may ask, why is it such a great investment? What is it about this medium that makes it so special? You know, it took me some time, because I originally started with this as a collector, right? But as this entire, what do you call it, industry, market, whatever you want to call it, has evolved, something that I heard recently, and I don't remember where I heard it from, but it really resonated with me. And that is that just like prints are sold, for example, you get a Picasso print, it's a numbered print, there's only so many of them, and when they do them, they never do them again. Or if they do them again, it becomes another series, or some. It's like a reprint, right? But the original print is considered the first print. Guess what? Comics are art, and that original comic is a first print. It is not a original piece of artwork, but it is just as valuable as a print. And you know that many prints out there are sold for a lot of money. I'll give you an example. Posters. You can barely see it, but there's a poster there. And let me see if I can move my camera over. There's a poster there. I know, not a popular movie, but I actually enjoyed it. But I'm a big Fantastic Four fan. Hard for me to not like something that's got the Fantastic Four, although the last Fantastic Four movie was an absolute disaster. But my point is, if you go get that poster, it's going to cost you maybe $100, because it's now dated, it's no longer available, and they're not really printing another one of it. And the same as other posters that I have in the room that are really movie related. But again, what's the difference between that print and a comic book when it comes to artwork? Nothing. Now, obviously, you've got original art like you've got right here, right? But this is the print. This is the original art. This is the cover, but if you could see up here, which the light is not letting us do, you can see it over on this side. If you look at the top one here, you'll notice that it is, if you think about it, it is the same as a print. It's just a page inside a comic book. So I think that's one of the reasons why I don't feel worried about the value of these comics, because I believe that they're being dealt with and treated as prints. Another thing I'll tell you is that the medium of printing books themselves is becoming less and less of a standard, and I'll relate that to another type of collectible: album covers. Okay, LPs. I don't know how many of you have ever seen one of these. They're becoming more and more in vogue now, but they're actually coming back already as kind of a collectible. The album covers themselves are being treated as this is Frampton Cubs Alive. If you've never heard this, you definitely should get that. And of course, one of the best albums ever made during the 60s, 70s, 80s, and today. It's considered a classic album. Now, there's a lot of original art in these albums. You can see some of it are photographs, but there are albums out there that had a lot of original art. So these albums have become collectible. The original first prints of them are much more valuable. These are first prints. They're much more valuable than if you went into, I think one of the places I've seen selling these are, can't remember the name now, but there's several stores, specialty stores, that will sell you original LPs. And here again, let me see if this one, the Beatles had a tendency to really put a lot of stuff into their albums. And here's an example. that is inside an insert to Sergeant Pepper's. Believe it or not, you were supposed to cut this up, put the mustache on, put this on your lapel. I mean, it was, it was a different time. So here it says Sergeant Pepper cutouts, mustache, picture card, stripes, badges, and stand up. So, again, these are some of the ways that comic books themselves, just like LPs did for a while there, it looked like LPs were going to disappear. And then they came back. They've come back because for some reason the analog sound is very different than an MP3. Here's an example of the album. So, by the way, the Sgt. Pepper's, it's not the original first print of this one. So this becomes, again, a second print or a third print. The original Capitol album had a black label in the center. Then there was a yellow label, and then there was the orange label. This is the orange label. Now, this is from, I think, 1974, 1976, somewhere around there. So it's already pretty old. But again, these are going the way of the dodo bird. I mean, some people have them, but not a lot of people do. And now it's becoming rare for you to have them. When I was growing up, there was a thing called the reel-to-reel. Reel-to-reel was replaced by cassette tapes. If you've never seen a cassette tape, let me show you one. Here's an example of a cassette tape. These were miniaturized reel-to-reels. So what happened is you would put it in and you would listen to the album. An entire album would fit on here. As a matter of fact, this was I think a 90-minute recordable cassette. I don't even know what's on here. But it's part of what I've kept in my record collection and my music collection. In the same way, my art collection has comics. If you find an original version of a Dr. Pepper's album, it could run into, I've seen some of these run in the thousands. I mean, there's one listed on eBay. I went to check just out of curiosity, and there's a guy selling one for $29,000. He's probably going to have that album with him for 29,000 years, unless it's got every Beatles signature on it or something to that effect, but it didn't seem that way. So anyway, I wanted to hit on that because I think that in today's market, the idea of FOMO is forcing the prices to artificially grow. And that's why you see a lot of these flavor of the month books where something new comes out and all of a sudden everybody jumps on it. I mean, one example of this was there was a Venom series that came out. I think it was the King in Black or something like that. I really don't get into those, so I never really bought any of them. But that thing flew up into the sky and came crashing down. I don't think there's been, maybe if you think of Punchline, or you think of Miles Morales, or you think of Kamala Khan, those are some of the ones that are going to be sticking around. But think about it, guys. How many people took those comics and actually went and CGC'd them? How many of them bought them and put them in a bin or keeps them in their box and, bagged and boarded? Look, here's something that you should always follow. If it says collectible, it normally will never really gain a lot of value because every single person out there that buys it is going to store it. The reason comic books have become so highly praised and priced is because the children were the ones that handled them. And kids did not handle comics as collectibles. Not in the 60s, not in the 70s. The majority of kids in those eras, or the 50s or 40s, they handled them because they were reading them. They were sharing them. They were giving them away. As a matter of fact, and I've said this in some of my other stories, I used to buy some books in a store called Abacus Coins and Stamps in downtown Miami, where I live. And at the time, the owner had an entire wall full of long boxes. And you'd go there, he'd pull the box down, put it in front of you, and you'd go through it. He would write the prices on the covers with a wax pen. That means that every comic book he had was ruined. And he had thousands and thousands. So how many 9/8 are you gonna find? I'm gonna show you something now. There actually, I found I think it was a 9/9 of no, that was a Spider-Man 252 was a 9/9 that I looked up. But there was I think it was a Spider-Man number 3 that, or number 5 that was like a 9/2. That's pretty impressive from that era. I had Spider-Man number 5, and the one I had was nowhere near a 9/2. So now I want to show you the price guides. I did bring some out because I did do a little bit of the analysis I mentioned earlier, and through the magic of YouTube, you're going to see it all in real time. Or I should say not in real time, but you're going to see it right now. But before I do that, for many of you who have never seen these, this is a comic book price guide. See the width of this thing? This is number 47. This is 2017. This, number 48, 2018. And I have them all the way to number 6. Number 49, 2019. You notice the ones on the cover are the ones that are going up in price at the time. Spawn, hugely popular. Number 50, 50th commemorative issue. And it's got Spawn and Spider-Man, so it's kind of a combo. Normally they would either do DC or Marvel. In this case they did Image. I think this is the first Image. This is 2020. And then 2021 with Echo. Why? Because Echo became hot. But at the same time, it may not stay hot. So this is issue number 51, 2020. So now let me show you some of the analysis I did. And it's really quick, nothing major, but I think you're going to find it interesting. And I think if you baseline yourself to buying your comics when they come out, and if you're doing it today, do this. Do not fall for variants that are unaffordable. It doesn't matter if you pay that price. Unless that book becomes a key, just because it's a variant from a good artist doesn't necessarily mean it's going to fly up in price. But if it's an artist that becomes the next Frank Frazetta, it's going to explode in price. What are the chances that there's going to be another Frank Frazetta today? I don't know if many of you know this, but many modern artists use what's called, I think it's a shadow box or a light box, and that means that they actually put the comic book photograph inside, or put an image inside of a computer, and then they use that image to create artwork. So they draw on the computer itself. If you've ever seen original art, which you can see behind me, it's really difficult to draw original art because you only get one chance. It's like in the old days when you used to handwrite your letters. You handwrite your letters, whatever you wrote, there was no way to fix it unless you had liquid paper, and I covered liquid paper before. But and just for, if you haven't seen that video, liquid paper was a little paint that you would put on the paper and write on top of it. Yeah, you would actually paint physical paper and write on top of it, because Word and word processors did not exist. Neither did computers. So at the time, there was no way to go in and just delete and rewrite what you wanted to write, or make corrections, or have a spell checker. None of those things existed. So if you had a spelling mistake and you didn't catch it, it went out that way. So now let me show you a little bit of an analysis of, and I'm using Amazing Spider-Man number 1, and then I'm using Amazing Spider-Man 252. And what I wanted to do here was show the difference between the Overstreet price guide, which unfortunately, in my opinion, because it is in book form, has become obsolete for pricing. There's too many dynamics in the market today to use that. That's kind of like using the newspaper to track your stock. That's a pretty good example. If you use your newspaper to track your stock, you're probably going to be in trouble because you're going to be a day late and $1 short. If you use E-Trade or Schwab or any of the other online trading platforms, you're going to be just fine because you're going to be right up to the minute, knowing what's going on and able to make your decisions. Whenever you make your decisions from something that was printed, you're making your decision based on past. You're not making your decision based on the present. So sometimes that, and many times it'll come to haunt you. Okay, so let me show you something now. Now, as you can see here, Amazing Spider-Man #1's got there's a graph that shows the um, progression of prices, starting at around $70,000 and going just over 80, maybe 90,000, as an average of a 9.2 in the Overstreet price guide. Now, Overstreet had been the market de facto system for pricing, but I think it has been relegated as an obsolete method of finding prices, and that is because Overstreet itself is a book. It's never been digitized. I mean, they have a PDF, which I find quite funny that when they consider themselves being on a computer, what they do is they create a PDF versus a database. Somewhere there must be a database for all the prices Overstreet has, and one day, hopefully, they will digitize it and make it an app. In the meantime, what's happening is that they've really lost sight of where the market's headed. Look at the cover price, 9.2 right now, 2022. Price is somewhere around $170,000. But if you look at the 2021, which is the latest price that Overstreet provides, it's sitting just over $80,000. That's on 191% variance. That's a huge variance, which means that unfortunately Overstreet has become an obsolete system. But what I really wanted to show here is the incremental increase. We should not be afraid of what FOMO and speculation is doing to this market, because the Overstreet incremental increase that you see between 2017 and 2021 is an actual price that is probably the absolute bottom of what would happen in a speculation market. What you see in the cover price 9.2 is likely to reflect more of the speculation market and some of the highs that we're seeing. So again, should we be afraid of what's going on with speculation? I don't believe so. But let's take a look at something else. Okay, here we're talking about a more modern comic, not Spider-Man #1, which means that the volatility to this comic is much more in line with the speculative market. Um, is it 100% modern? No, it's actually, I think, considered Bronze Age. It's from the 80s. But the overall price here is hugely variable from what cover price says to what Overstreet says. Now, is Amazing Spider-Man 252 really worth $115,000 in 2021? Which, by the way, I apologize because I did not complete the dates on here, but 105 is 2020 and 115 is 2021. Cover price is showing this for $5,078. By 2022, that's today's price, is $5,078. Someone actually has paid that. Now again, a drop from 5,000 to 115 is a huge significant drop. So I think if you are a collector, you should really assume that buying your comics when they come out is probably your best bet in this market. Buying old comics is probably safer than buying newer comics. And I don't mean to dump on people that buy today's comic books. I think it's great. I believe that there's been some really advancements in the way that the market is dealing with comic publications. For example, we're not doing 500,000 comics. We're doing numbers in the thousands. And that means that, yes, these comics are going to be a bit more rare. And I'll give you an example. Go back to the Fawcett comics. And I should have done a graph for that. But go back to the Fawcett comics of the 50s and 40s, and you're going to find that their prices are still low in comparison to Timely and other systems. And the reason for that is Fawcett was very popular. Fawcett was printing 500,000 copies of their comics. So their comics are incredibly available in the marketplace. And scarcity does breed collectability price um, increases. So again, here's another example. I wanted to show a 500% variance between Overstreet and cover price. Okay, guys, before we go, I want to remind you, and I've said this many times before, I think the next hot craze in collectability is going to be original art. Now, I want you to understand something. I am a collector. I am not a professional comic book salesman, or nor do I have an LCS. I sell online, I sell on eBay. If you want to look up my books on eBay, Comic Book 1962, go there. You're going to find, usually I have anywhere from 60 to 100 books posted. Many of them are more modern and things that I am just weaning out of my collection. I want to do one of those collections where I have maybe 200 or 100 books, and that's it. So I am slowly, over the next 5-7 years, going to be selling off 90% of my collection, and that means a couple thousand books, if not 4,000 or 5,000. So I hope that you'll tune in again. And again, please remember, subscribe, hit the like, and share my videos. I really appreciate you listening to this video today. And I hope if you have any ideas or any questions, send them to me. My email is at the end of this video. You'll be able to write me there, write me your comments, or put them in the comments. So again, thank you, and see you soon. Okay, so let me show you what I just sold. Yep, there it is. It's a beauty, isn't it? Now, obviously, many of you recognize this, and I will show you the original. This is the original key that the homage has been paid to. So this is a absolutely gorgeous, one of the, originally the hardest Silver Surfer comic book that you could buy was considered to be number 4. It was supposed to have been low distribution. Then years later it was discovered that it wasn't as low as everyone thought, but it was still lower than most of the print run was. But in any case, that issue has become one of the most coveted covers that we've ever had for a Silver Surfer, and it's been utilized and copied for many other comics. So let me show you the quality of what this is, because this is absolutely perfect. Again, I mean, you guys have heard me before. If you've seen my videos, if you see the last one I did, you saw what happened to me with CGC. It was ridiculous. I mean, I had a book that was in this shape come back, an 8.5, an 8.5. Now, you know, I'm gonna probably break that out of its shell and send it back. I think it was a bad day for a grader, and it does happen, guys. But I wanted to show you this because I wanted to show you the kind of quality that's really out there. This is not a new book. This book was 2008. So 2008, 9/8 can still be had, and they're still in raw form. If you search and you look for them, you'll find them. Why am I getting rid of that? Well, because I've said before, got to cut my collection a bit. I am a collector, and that's one of the reasons why, to me, the idea of investing is not 100% why I do what I do. Because when I started, I really started because of my love of comics. What got me into thinking of the value proposition was when I had to go buy them. So we've talked enough about that. I just wanted to show you that. And I want you to remind you, please share my videos. Please hit the like. Please subscribe. And let me know what it is that you'd like to hear, because this channel is really meant to be about collecting comic books, the history of collecting comic books, and my personal journey through that history. So I really want to thank you guys again, and I will be seeing you soon.
Baby, baby, I'm gonna leave you. I said, baby,